I was a cigarette smoker when I was a teenager, and I
Mm.
smoked a lot. And I specifically remembered what motivated me to quit. Um, I was in the theater department at University of Texas at Austin, and one of the professors was a playwright, a famous playwright by the name of Webster Smalley, and we'd all sit around and smoke in class with him.
Mm-hmm.
How weird is that? Can you imagine
Yeah, that's
smoking?
sounds
And
archaic nowadays.
he would start coughing, Jack, and he had so much
Mm.
phlegm, he would have to go outside and clear his throat, and you'd hear him coughing up phlegm.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to
Mm-mm.
be coughing up phlegm. So I made two attempts. The second attempt, I quit. I quit smoking, and I'll tell you what I remember. I'm not a big vomit person. I think I've thrown up 3 or 4 times in my life. I was
Oh, lucky
vomiting
you.
from withdrawal,
Wow.
and then I started running like a week later, and the rest is history. I never started again. So,
What
I
advice
was
would you
like,
give to people who are trying to quit smoking or quit using nicotine?
any advice? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I used to work with smokers. My advice is quit. Do whatever you have to do, whether, you have to use meds from your doctor, whether you use nicotine gum, quit because you'll feel so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me about 3 attempts to finally quit
Yeah.
because you're miserable. I mean, nicotine, if it wasn't so unhealthy, it's a really neat drug. It's like
Yeah, it's a hell
a
of a drug.
stimulant and a depressant all rolled into one. But I remember how sick I felt. Oh my God. I mean, I was vomiting, which was really unusual for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
uh, just do whatever you have to do to quit. But I do know that I started running. I think running, the exercise is what kept me from starting again. And then you feel so good. You're like, wow, I feel great. I don't ever want to start again.
Yeah, the high you feel of runner's high or after
Oh,
working out or the sauna. Sauna's a great one for me. I feel so great
a-
after that.
ab- absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But people like, I told my husband the other day, I don't know if those public service announcements they have on TV showing people like with, no mouth or no nose or a big hole in their throat. And they're like, I used to be a smoker,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if those are very effective,
Yeah. Scare
but,
tactics.
yeah, I don't know if scare tactics are effective, but if you're a smoker, do whatever you have to do to quit, whatever you have to do, because, um, there's meds, and I can't remember the name of the drug that they,
Is it bupropion?
which one?
Bupropion?
I can't remember,
I remember
but,
learning about it in pharmacology, but
yeah,
might be familiar.
there's magic, there's nicotine gum, there's sprays, there's do whatever you have to do, because
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely one of the best things I had done for myself was quit smoking. But I started when I was 12, and I'd smoke right along with my mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It seems as though smoking is a very social thing. Um, I know a lot of people who smoke socially, and that's the only time when they smoke. And it almost seems like smoking is making a bit of a comeback because of the
Oh,
social aspect, and because
oh,
I think a lot
really?
of people like the aesthetic of it, which I know sounds ridiculous, but seems to kind of be the case for me. The
Well,
Marlboro Man, that sort of aesthetic.
I know vaping is really
Mm.
popular.
It is. There's a lot of people who vape. There's also the nicotine pouches that are out, the Zens and Velos and all of those. Um, are you familiar with those particularly?
I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with spit tobacco.
Yeah, so it's different than snus. It's different than chewing tobacco like the leaf. It's lab-made synthetic nicotine in a cellulose pouch, effectively with flavoring.
Oh,
Um,
well, I'm not familiar with it. No.
yeah, it's this is surprising. It's very popular, very big, very huge nowadays,
Wow.
especially with young kids. And as far as I can tell, I mean, this is my non-doctor opinion, but as far as I can tell, it seems like they're probably the best nicotine alternative that we have because, as I said, they contain nicotine and cellulose and flavorings. And nicotine on its own is not carcinogenic. However, we don't have the long term studies yet. That's also what people said about
Yeah.
vaping at the start of it. So we don't know currently, but as far as I can tell, they seem like a better option. That certainly better than smoking, most likely better than vaping. So
Yeah, it's just it's just a nasty habit,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't believe I used to do it. I mean, I was 2 pack a day,
Wow.
heavy smoker.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was back in the day. I guess my mom just felt like, well, if I smoke, I can't tell her not to smoke. If my son smoked, oh my
Yeah. It's
God.
good to lead by example with raising kids, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I would, oh my, I'd be all over his case if he smoked.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God he doesn't. But I tell you what, when he went off to college, 2.5 years ago, we drilled this into his head. We said we'd rather you drink responsibly than do any drugs
Mm-hmm.
because fentanyl is in everything.
Yeah. Drinking, I mean, drinking has a lot of its own slew of downsides, but it's certainly safer than risking
Oh,
fentanyl, especially when cocaine is so popular, especially at universities. God only knows what's in that, cocaine.
well,
So,
my son had a friend who died of a fentanyl overdose,
mm,
and the cops told this kid's father. They said, the drug dealers don't care. They chop up everything on the same table. So
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of cross contamination. The fentanyl ends up in weed, it ends up in coke, it ends up in everything because they're not being fastidious about the way that they're cutting the drugs.
Yeah,
And this kid who died, he was the best kid.
mm,
Oh my God, he was the best. One bad choice, one bad decision. That was it.
yeah. No,
One
that's
bad decision.
so tragic.
He was just, oh my God, he was just this amazing, amazing kid. But yeah, I think that it's important that parents educate themselves
Hmm.
about all this stuff. And I know they're talking to grade school kids about fentanyl.
Wow,
That's that's
that's
how, isn't
insane.
that great? Well, they have to.
Yeah, I mean,
They
I
they
guess
have to.
because they're
It's
getting
just
exposed to using drugs, or why specifically
I didn't hear
why?
your question. I'm sorry.
Are they talking to them about it because grade school kids are doing drugs that might contain fentanyl, or
They're getting exposed to drugs. Often people will have gummies, and
mm,
and kids will think, oh, it's a gummy, it's safe, and you need to
hmm,
let them know it's not safe.
yeah,
And you just, what I think, 70,000 people this year will die of fentanyl overdose. I think that's the
it's a
number.
lot. Yeah, I
It's
the a
huge.
lot of people per year die from overdose. I think it's in the neighborhood of 100,000. So,
It's huge, and it's just, yeah, and so you just have to educate kids about it.
hmm,
And so you have, and I think some parents just, I mean, I've already learned today, like I didn't know anything about nicotine pouches. I was like, oh, that's new. So I
yeah,
think some parents just don't know
yeah.
about some of this stuff. So you have to educate them, um, and you have to talk to your kids. And it's just, um, people say, oh, things aren't that different than they were 50 years ago. Things are totally different
Oh
than
yeah,
they were 50 years. Fentanyl was not around 50 years ago.
yeah. Well, I hear people
You,
talk about weed, older people, and they say weed is not weed anymore. Back when I was a kid, weed was it was a plant, it was a leaf. You smoked it, you kind of got high,
right,
but now you smoke and you're sent to Timbuktu, and
right.
you're out in the middle of nowhere in your brain. A
Exactly.
lot
So
stronger nowadays.
it's not the same, and crime is worse, and there's more motor vehicle accidents. I mean, there's obviously more people. The number one cause of death at children ages 1 to 19 is gun violence.